So let's say that you want to create a custom-made genetically engineered designer baby from scratch. You'd want your baby to be as smart as Albert Einstein, as attractive as George Clooney, and as strong and muscular as The Rock. But you would also want your baby to resist diseases and live for as long as possible. Intelligence, beauty, strength, and life expectancy are all controlled by our genes, which means you could add all these characteristics into one individual before birth. The first thing you need is a skin cell, which can be converted into a human fetus. There are around 35 billion skin cells in your body. It is astonishing to know that each individual cell has the potential to become a fully grown human being. First, you take skin cells. They could be from a male or a female. One person is enough. Then you convert them into embryonic stem cells. These embryonic stem cells have the capacity to become any other type of cell in the body. Heart cell, lung cell, liver cell, neurons, and the list goes on. And since we're interested in creating a human being, we would convert these stem cells into sperm and eggs. This can be done through a process called cellular reprogramming. And it works by feeding stem cells the right ingredients of hormones and growth factors, and sometimes a bit of genetic modification. Depending on the combination of hormones and growth factors that you choose, you can force stem cells to become any type of cell you want. Now that we have converted skin cells indirectly into sperm and eggs, we can fertilize the egg using the sperm through in vitro fertilization, a standard procedure that is currently used by millions of infertile couples around the world, and it has existed since the 1970s. In vitro fertilization allows us to create embryos from sperm and eggs under lab conditions. Unfortunately, these embryos are susceptible to genetic diseases. They could mutate and eventually experience serious health problems after birth. They may also give rise to ordinary human beings. To solve this problem, we will have to genetically engineer these embryos using CRISPR-Cas9, a gene editing tool that is fast, reliable, and precise at editing the genes of almost any cell. There is a big difference between engineering an embryo and engineering an adult human being. You can't become a Spider-Man simply because a spider injected you with its genes. Genetic engineering works based on embryos because the number of cells is very low and you can edit all of them with minimal efforts. They are simply 4 to 8 cells. However, adult humans already have trillions of cells, 37.2 trillion cells to be precise. Editing all of them at once with our current technologies is near impossible, and it probably won't even be achievable for many decades to come. The other advantage of editing human embryos is that it's a more efficient process. That's because genetic information can pass through generations. If you genetically engineer an embryo to become someone intelligent, the intelligence will pass from one generation to the next. Assuming you did this to an adult, which is impossible for now, the intelligence would remain with that particular individual and will die as soon as he or she dies. That's why we should work with embryos, because any genetic traits introduced here will affect the entire species for a very long term. When it comes to genetic engineering of human beings, people are mainly interested in treating genetic diseases. There are over 6,000 genetic diseases. Our genetics contribute to a number of diseases such as Alzheimer's, arthritis, diabetes, cancer, obesity, and heart disease. The more we learn about the genes that cause them, the greater the chances of fixing them through genetic engineering. As of now, scientists have managed to use CRISPR gene editing to correct genes linked to blood disorders, HIV, muscular dystrophy, and a heart condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Apart from fixing genetic diseases, you could also engineer the phenotype, which is the external appearance of the person: hair color, eye color, skin tone, and body strength. All of these traits are fully customizable because they are controlled by our genes. And since different people have different standards of beauty and color choices, You could eventually engineer your baby to be the absolute perfection that you're looking for. You could even extend the lifespan of your baby and even enhance human intelligence. We already know that there are over 1,000 genes that are linked to human intelligence. We have pinpointed them, and controlling them will allow us to enhance human intelligence on every born designer baby. In 2018, China became the birthplace of the world's first genetically engineered humans. A Chinese scientist announced that he had created the world's first genetically engineered babies by modifying human embryos using CRISPR gene editing tool. With the help of CRISPR, he introduced HIV resistance to human embryos and then implanted these embryos into a mother who gave birth to 2 genetically modified humans. This triggered a lot of discussion about the ethical issues of such technology. This kind of technology raises ethical questions about who will have access to it and whether it's a form of playing with nature that would backfire against us later on. One thing for sure, this is going to be expensive. In 1996, Dolly, the first cloned animal, was born. Even though cloning is basically copying the genome without any genetic modifications, it was still hard. Out of 277 clones, only 1 was successful. Now think about genetic modification of several genes. You would need tons of embryos to be engineered, and then screen them to find the perfect one, which tells you how costly that could be. Just like with every other technology that existed or will ever exist, there are upsides and downsides for designer babies, some of which can be very hard to predict, especially when talking about our genome, which is constantly changing. Our path to a society where designer babies exist is progressing faster than you think. And with these rapid changes, someday you will wake up and find yourself in a completely different world.